So now in part 5 of our video series, we're going to look at actually getting some of our surplus cash dedicated to the line of credit. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, we know we've got a net amount of income. And we know we've got a bunch of expenses. So the argument here would be, maybe if I have some extra cash left at the end of the day, why don't we take that and apply it towards that line of credit? So what I might do here, and I'm going to have to do this a couple times, a couple different ways because of my formulas, but that's okay. So I say, all right, I'm going to add something to this. So this is where I can use an if statement. And what I might look at here is if my net income for the year, that's good, is more than the sum of these expenses, then I can take that surplus and I can apply that against the line of credit. Now, I have to also take into account the 2,700, so I'm going to add the 2,700 here. I'd love to refer to cell B11, but I'll get a circular reference that way, and that's no good. So I'm just going to manually add the 2,700. So if that amount is greater than that total, now that being said, I don't want that going towards the principal if there's no principal on the line of credit. So this is where we can potentially get a little bit messy, where we can put a max or a min formula in here. Again, we're not going to pay towards line of credit if there's no line of credit. We will come back to that in a moment. Okay, for now we're okay. So, and in fact, I might do here a min statement, and you can see where you can start to really build this out. So I'm going to do the minimum of the line of credit balance for that year, or $2,700. That is, you're never going to pay, again, more than the line of credit balance. So now, just carrying through with my if statement, I've got to wrap up my sum statement here. And now we can see I'm on value if true. So if, I'll go back to the right sheet here, if this is all true, if logical test is true, now what are we going to do? This is where I want to take that surplus amount, that $79,200, minus all of our expenses, and put it into that spot. So now we can sum all of that up, and again add that 2,700, although again, never more than, so I'm going to do the same thing here, and I can just type this out, never more than the actual balance. So now it's going to pay that much towards the line of credit. And if my expenses aren't in a surplus situation, well now, or that is if my expenses are more than my income, well now I'm presumably going to build the line of credit. So this is where I could do just the opposite, and I could say if this is false, that is if my sum of my expenses is more than, now what are we going to do? Well, at this point, we're going to take the sum total of those expenses, and you can actually, sorry, I had a big fingers there or something. Not sure what happened. Sorry, just I accidentally deleted that little bit of formula there. So now we're going to look at the value of false. Now this is where it's actually helpful to make this formula bar a little bit bigger. And now I can see, because I'm going to have to go over to multiple rows. And now we would say, what if that's not true? Well, this is where I'm going to take the sum of those expenses and subtract that from our net income. So now if my expenses are greater than my net income, now that being said, that's going to be a negative number. It's actually going to reduce that balance. And now I can close out the formula. And I think we should be okay there. Okay, so now I do have some sort of mistake, and let's see if Excel will help me with that. No, it won't. Not in any useful way anyways. So I have to go through and figure it out, which isn't that big a deal. So I've got my expenses, or the amount from my expenses sheet. That's okay. And then I say if. So I look at my if statement here, and I find my logical test. So does the logical test work? So if B4 is greater than the sum of B5, so let's just do something simple here. We'll take the 2700 out. We'll see if that fixes our formula here for the time being. So now it has fixed our formula, but we have a little bit of a problem where we can't pay more than the actual outstanding amount on the line of credit. We'll come back and fix that in a second. So we can see now that based on that formula, we're going to pay down the line of credit at a fairly fast pace. I'm going to copy the second part of this, just Control-C, and I'm going to go tack that into this amount right here. And we're going to copy that all the way across now. Now we can see we're going to have a problem here because my line of credit payment is just growing and growing and growing. Okay, I never want to be paying more on the line of credit than the actual line of credit. So I can see that my line of credit payment should not be growing at that pace. So this formula is clearly not correct, but this one is working. So I actually see now that I can just copy that all the way across. Now my line of credit payment is still growing. My line of credit payment should never be larger than the actual line of credit balance. So again, we're going to use that min function and look to the line of credit here. It'll never be more than that amount. And now I can copy that all the way across here. So now it should never be larger than the line of credit balance. So now let's go see what's going on with my line of credit balance. So my starting line of credit balance was that fixed amount. Next year is based on last year's starting balance plus my interest. But look, I made a mistake with my interest formula. So I can fix that just by copying that interest formula all the way across. And my payments we're going to copy those all the way across as well. So now we have by and large fixed this. I have a little bit of a funny here in 2022 when I have $1 of line of credit balance that I probably shouldn't have, but it's not a problem that I would suggest is worth fighting. So the line of credit, we can see it getting paid down now, and it does make sense how this is happening. My interest is decreasing, my credit card interest is decreasing, so we have a little bit more money to put towards those line of credit payments in each subsequent year. That works. I hope so. And we'll break there, and we'll come back and we'll finally get to some accumulation.